webinar for the Praxis 5001. I'm just checking all these areas to see if I am live on YouTube, and it looks like I am. Just checking to make sure that I am live on Facebook, and I am. Awesome. So my name is Kathleen Jasper, and I am live today for the Praxis 5001 Elementary Education. I see a lot of you are already in the chat, so great. Good morning, Lily, Rochelle, Michaela, Kindle, Diana, Yara, I believe is your first name, Jessica, Eve. Welcome, welcome. Let me know in the chat that you can hear me okay and that you can see me. We are live today for the elementary education exam, specifically this test, the 5001. However, if you're taking the 7001, the 5901, and any other elementary education exam, this free webinar is going to help you tremendously. So when you signed up for this particular webinar, you were taken to a thank you page where you downloaded a free study guide. It was also sent to you in an email, a follow-up email, and then a reminder email today. The free study guide is about, how many pages is it? 24 pages. Obviously, the real study guide is like 600 pages, 500 and something pages. So the free one is awesome. That comes with this particular webinar. Now, if you didn't have a chance to download it, don't worry. I'm going to be projecting everything on my screen. But if you do want to download that later, for one, if you're in the webinar right now, you signed up, you're going to get an email at the end of this webinar with the free study guide again and the replay link to watch this webinar later. So if you want to rewatch what we talk about later, you can do that. If you're watching in the future, you've already received that email and you've received the study guide. If you found us somewhere on social, there's a link in the description to register for the webinar with your email. And when you do, you'll be taken to a thank you page where the actual webinar link is and the free study guide. But you can do that all later and instead just watch the webinar right now because, again, I'm going to project everything on my screen here. Okay. So it is Saturday morning. We are going to work for about an hour and a half. And we're going to go through the entire test for the 5001. Now, this test has 4 subtests. 5002, which is reading and language arts, 5003, which is math, 5004, which is social studies, and 5005, which is science. So you're a language arts teacher, a math teacher, a social studies teacher, and a science teacher when you are an elementary ed teacher. And that's why it's such a ginormous test. Also, if you're overwhelmed by this exam, you're not alone. Lots of people have to take this particular test more than once. Some of you, you go in, you take it, you pass 1 or 2 or 3 sections, and you're still stuck on that 4th section. I saw somebody in the chat earlier say that 5005 is giving them a run for their money. This is a tough exam. You know, this is one that it tests things that you haven't seen in a long time, like lightning or the pH scale or ions. You know, if you're someone who's been working a different job, maybe you've been an accountant or whatever, and you haven't been in an elementary classroom in a long time, some of this is going to be really difficult. And the math is very tough. So we're going to go through all of it today. And I'm going to show you where to get free resources, and I'm going to show you where to get paid resources. And I'm also going to go over that free study guide that you got by signing up for this webinar. Now, I won't be able to go through the entire free study guide because it is pretty big. The study guide I give you with this webinar is pretty big, but I'm going to go over a majority of it, and we're really going to focus on test taking strategies, thinking like a test maker to pass the exam, okay? Also, I've been doing this now for 10 years. I've helped thousands and thousands of teachers pass their certification exams. I've written like 35 books. I have about 35 different study guides on Amazon, and I love what I do. So I started off as a substitute teacher like many of you. I took all the exams to become a full-time teacher, and then I taught reading, language arts, and science at the high school level. Then I went downtown. There was a really cool job open downtown called a curriculum master teacher. And I went downtown and wrote curriculum, helped build assessments. I was actually trained by a major testing company that builds these exams here on how to write test questions. So they showed us their methods. So when I tell you, think like a test maker, I know their methods. So I'm sharing those with you. And a lot of what I do today is a reflection of that job. And then I became an assistant principal where I hired lots of teachers and worked with lots of teachers and did professional development. And then I left to start my own company. All right. So let me just take some questions in the chat here. Someone asked, this is for the 5001, not the 5901. The 5901 and the 5001 are the exact same test, except the 5901 does not have the language arts section, but they are identical if you look at the test specs. So if you're here for the 5901, you're in the right place as well. The first part of this webinar will be for the 5002, the language arts and reading, but the rest of it will go towards your test. So if you're here for the 7001, the 5001, the 5901, the 7811, I mean, there are so many elementary ed tests. They all mirror this in some way, shape, or form. Most people take this exam, but there's a bunch of different elementary eds. I am here because I really want to learn and understand to become a better teacher. However, I'm not sure if this is okay to stay here. My test is 5205. This webinar will help me or confuse me. Okay, the 5205 is the teaching reading. The first part of this webinar, the 5002, is aligned with the teaching reading. I also just did a webinar for the 5205 last weekend. So if you want to, you can go to my website under webinars and you can get all of that. Okay. I also have an offer code I have a colleague in the chat. Her name is Yana. She's going to give all of you who signed up for this webinar an offer code for 20% off all of our products. This particular program is huge because there are actually 4 big tests in the subtest. All right. So let me talk to you about this and some general questions I get on this, and then we'll get into the content. The first question I get is, should I take the whole thing at once, or should I break it up by individual subtests? And this is a great question. My recommendation is you take the whole thing the first time you take it. The reason is because you might pass 1 or 2 sections of the exam. These are basically given to you as separate subtests, but you can take the whole thing together, right? Now, let's say you get them all. You're done. You're done. Okay. Let's say you get 2 out of 4. Now, all you have to do is focus on 2 subtests. Then, if you want to take them one at a time, you could do that. But I recommend the first time when you take this test, you take the whole thing at once because you have a better chance of passing all or some. And that's my advice there. Someone's asking, is this the same for K-6 for Florida? We do not prep for Florida exams. This is the ETS, but all the elementary ed exams are very, very similar. So if you're here for any elementary ed test, I recommend this webinar. It's free. It's definitely going to help you. And this book is aligned to a lot of other elementary ed tests. Kindle, I took the whole thing at once the first time and I got overwhelmed, and now I'm taking them individually. Yeah, it's a big test, but I still recommend for most people that you take it all at once and then you take it individually. Now, the other thing I get asked is when you're taking them individually. So let's say, I'm going to give you a scenario. Let's say I go in and I pass the social studies and the science. So I'm done with those. And now I have the language arts and reading and the math to do. Those are arguably the hardest sections. Arguably, some of you are having a harder time with others. Okay. So I have those 2 to take. So let's say I have to wait 30 days because once you take them and you're not successful, you have to wait 30 days. So in those 30 days, I start studying for the language arts and reading. I'm going to focus on that one. I'm going to leave the math to the side. I'm going to focus on the language arts and reading. And let's say I'm not successful again. Well, I can take the math right away because I've already waited 30 days. You can sort of stagger them. So it's like, okay, I'm taking the language arts and reading, and then I'm going to quickly take the math. You can do that. The other thing that I want to let you know is that most people have to take this test more than once. So I understand it's frustrating and most people want to be successful their first time, but this test is really huge and you may have to take it more than once. You may have to take it more than twice, and that's okay. That's totally normal. In fact, 50% of people taking any of these teacher certification exams are not successful their first time. They have to take it more than once. So more than half. All right. The other thing I want to tell you is I don't know what questions you're going to get on test day. People say, oh, does your study guide have the exact same questions as the test? No, It does not. I don't know what test you're going to get. So let me just inform you a little bit about the way test administration works so everybody understands. When you go in to take a test, you are getting a form of a test. You're getting form A. The person next to you might be getting form B. The person next to that person might get form A again or might get form C. There could be 3 forms to the exam, 4 forms to the exam. I have no idea. And we're not supposed to know. Okay. Where those questions come from is they come from an item bank. So let's just take this test here. Let's take the language arts and reading. There are several sections of the language arts and reading. There are several sections of the math. There are several sections of the social studies and the science. Those have their own containers where items are put. Items are test questions. And sometimes there are hundreds of items per item bank, per content category, per subtest. So there are thousands of items that they then randomly put on your test based on the percentages that they're supposed to be on the test. We have no idea what test you're going to get, and we're not supposed to. Just like you're never going to know what test your students are going to get. At the end of the year, many of your students will take a math exam or an English language arts exam. You can really help prepare them by understanding the standards and the types of questions they're going to be asked, but you're not given the questions to the state exam. This is a state exam. We are not given the questions to the state exam. So I highly recommend that you stop doing practice tests over and over again, trying to memorize test questions and hoping that you get them on test day, because that is not going to work. You need to understand the content. And a lot of people who are taking practice tests over and over again and they're not successful, that's because they're not really understanding the content. So I'm going to go through the content categories for this exam in each section. And I want you to understand that there are actual standards that they want you to know for those particular tests. Now, the social studies and science, it is a lot of memorization. It's a lot of content. There's somebody in here who's having a tough time with the science. They are sort of random questions just about science, but they follow the standards in earth space science, life science, and physical science. There is a pattern, and I'm going to show you where to do that, okay? If you take them all and pass 2, do the scores of the ones you pass stay? Yes, once you've passed one subtest, you've passed. You do not have to go back and take it. This is broken up. It's one big test, but it's basically got 4 of its own individual tests. So if you take the English language arts and pass, and say you take the math and pass, you're done with those. You do not have to retake those. You only have to take the ones that you were not successful in. Okay. We have extra practice tests for this. We have a lot of extra things. So let me just show you where to get some of the stuff that I talked about, because you are going to get an offer code in the chat and in an email. And I just want to show you where to get more resources here. So let me go. No, let's go here. Okay. On my website, KathleenJasper.com, we have the study guide, Elementary Education 5001, and you can buy it individually. Like, let's say you've already passed language arts and reading, math, and social studies, and you only have science left. Just buy the science. Okay. If you need more than one subtest on the study guide, I highly recommend that you just buy the whole thing. It's less expensive. We also have practice tests, extra practice tests here. And you can see they are here. You can buy extra practice tests here for $20 a piece. There are 2 language arts and reading, 2 extra math practice tests, 2 extra social, and 2 extra science. So you can buy those as well. But again, I wrote these hesitantly because I'm like, I don't want you to just to do practice tests. You also have to read what's going on in the book, right? But this is good for people who want some extra practice. Beyond that, we have an online course. This is where we will help you. Like, if you like what I'm doing today, this online course you're going to love. Again, you can buy those separately. If you need more than 3, though, I would buy the whole thing. It's just less expensive. And this is what it looks like. Let me show you what the online course looks like. So here's the math section. Let me just show you. You'll have them all here. Notice you have language arts and reading. So this is the language arts and reading. It comes with, let me load again. Sorry. It comes with the study guide. So you get the digital study guide, and then it comes with tons of videos and quizzes and explanations, but you're going to want to download the study guide and read it as well, because um, there's information in the study guide and in the videos. You got to do them both. And then of course, there's the math. The math is huge because a lot of people have a lot of trouble with the math. So I could basically go through every single question in the book here in this video course. So if you're struggling with math, I highly recommend the online course. And then of course, social studies. Some of you are struggling with some of those concepts. We go through, geography, US history. I kind of go through these concepts. I really explain them to you so you understand them, because you could be asked a question on the test that's like, worded differently. And you got to understand, the rain shadow effect. Some of these things you haven't thought about in 20, 30 years if you're a career changer. So this is very helpful. And then of course, the science, same thing. There are videos to help you. Let me just go like understanding Earth's history here. There's some stuff here. And then of course, videos and slides and things like that. Okay. Now you can buy all or some sections. If you already have the study guide, that's fine. One more thing. Let me share this tab instead, and then we'll get started. On the study guide, when you buy our study guide or our online course, you're buying a digital study guide. It's sent to you in an email. If you want the physical copy, you can click this tab and it will take you to the physical copy on Amazon. And let me just warn you on a couple of things here, and then we'll get started. Please buy the new study guide, okay? Because if you buy a used study guide, it's going to have writing in it. And people will often email us and say, hey, my study guide I bought on Amazon had writing in it. Well, you bought from a third-party vendor. There is absolutely nothing I can do about that, okay? Buy the new. It's only a couple of bucks more. You don't want a used study guide. I mean, if you don't mind and you want to save a couple of bucks, buy the used, but please know there's going to be writing in it, okay? Notice we have tons of 5-star ratings for this book. So many people have passed this test with this book, whether it's the physical or the digital copy, okay? So that's that. I just want to show you where to get more things. Some people only use our free stuff and they pass. So if you want to start with the free, do that. But if you want more, like, look, this book is huge. We have extra practice tests, all of that. We're going to do that. Okay. And then Yana, I believe she's putting in the offer code. Yana, go ahead and throw them the offer code, please. It will give you 20% off this anything on our website, and you can use it for other stuff. You don't have to just use it for this particular thing. I finally passed the science thanks to you. Oh, good, Glenda. Actually, thanks to you, Glenda. You passed the science. I didn't. I just gave you the information, but you did it yourself. I had to take it 3 times. The science is hard. I mean, if you're not teaching science, some of these concepts you haven't seen since you were in elementary. So it's all good. I'm struggling with the science and reading. Okay, Sydney, you're in the right spot. Kindle, you say you have the online course. Awesome. I'm an older PhD, Greco-Roman literature. Nice, Chuck. But I've not had math in 42 years. Okay. I've never had algebra and geometry. Do I have a chance? Of course, Chuck. You can do it. You're just going to have to practice your math. A PhD in Greco-Roman literature. You're going to have to focus on a new skill, but you're smart. So you're good. You just got to switch over. And once you get working in math, you'll like it. I failed all 3, science, social studies, and math, and I've been offered by Praxis to take the alternative course. If I take the bundle again and fail that test, I took the course and will override the alternative passing. I don't know. You'll have to contact your state. Every state has a different thing. If I have the 5001 study guide and want to take the online practice course, do I need to purchase the online study material for the online course? The course comes with the book. So send us an email, Dee Dee, so we can give you exact information. That's info@kathleenjasper.com. And then we are, Yana, so that offer code is in there. I'm not sure if that's the right offer code, but it'll work either way. Okay, so there's an offer code in the chat here. So go ahead and put those in, put the offer code in when you go to buy, and that'll be good. Okay, good. Are we going over test taking strategies? Yes, we are, Maya. We're going to do it right now. Okay, so let me hop over, share my screen. We're going to get into the presentation. Now listen, don't worry about downloading it. I'm going to project everything. This is the free study guide here. You're going to get this. If you just joined us, you haven't had time to download it, that's okay. I added a lot of extra stuff in here that's going to help you. So please download this and read it. Don't just go to the practice test questions. They are important, but I want you to read the stuff in here because it's important. And of course, if you get the big study guide, you got to read this. I know it's a lot, but 20 minutes a night is best. Stay in the test. It's better than trying to cram all this information. Get little bits of information, especially those of you with math. Try to get that information in little bits, little bites at a time. Staying in the test is more beneficial than cramming. Another thing, please read the answer explanations, whether you get it right or wrong. Sometimes it's really powerful to understand why you got something wrong. So please read the answer explanations. And in this new study guide, they're very robust. My answer explanations are like a whole other chapter. So please check this out. And you can see the math is very well explained. Please read the answer explanations. Okay. So this is the free study guide that comes with the webinar. This is the paid study guide. And you can see it is 519 pages. Let's just use this study guide's table of contents so you can see the different sections. Okay, subtest 1 is language arts and reading. This is 5002. Okay. This has got foundational skills, phonemic and phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, all of that, right? It's also going to talk about literature and informational text. Then you're going to get into writing, the process of writing, all the way up to like creative writing with students. And then, of course, speaking and listening. There are 2 practice tests in the big study guide for this, okay? Then subtest 2 is mathematics. This is 5003. This has 3 main sections: numbers and operations, algebraic thinking, and geometry, measurement, data, statistics, and probability. I'm going to go over all this. Don't worry. I'm just breaking up the test right now. Subtest 3 is 5004, which is social studies. Okay. This is going to have US history, geography, and they combine world history and economics together. Big test. Lots of crazy stuff here you might not have thought about in a while unless you really love world history. I mean, there's some stuff in here about the Neolithic era. You just might not have thought about that in a while. And then science has 3 subtests. Or 3 content categories, I should say: earth science, life science, and physical science. Okay. Don't worry. We're going to go through all of them. You can see, I mean, this is it's very, let me just go to something. We've got a lot of information, especially for teaching reading. This is very complex. Let's go to the math here. Sorry, this is a big study guide. Oh my gosh, I'm still in the reading. Hang on. Okay, the math. You're going to have some basic skills like this, where you're grouping for multiplication, all the way to the coordinate plane and slope. I mean, they've got slope intercept on this test. That's hard. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care that it's an elementary education exam. It's hard, so you're going to have to study. And then like for let's keep going. Math is a big one. I got a lot of math problems. Hang on. Then we've got social science. You've got the presidents of the 19th and 20th centuries. You've got the Civil War, specific things like this, Nat Turner's rebellion, some things you may not have thought about. And then, of course, you've got econ, geography, different types of maps, things like that. And then you've got, let's go to science really quickly. Sorry, I've got to scroll through 500 pages. I just want to show you. You've got Earth, space science here, different spheres of the Earth. Then you've got life science, which is going to be, about your cells and DNA and heredity and meiosis and mitosis and things like that. And then you have physical science, which is all about atoms and mixtures and the pH scale. And it's a lot of information, you guys. So just take it one step at a time. Okay. There is an offer code in the chat to help you guys if you want to buy any of this stuff. All right. Now let me go towards my presentation. Here we go. All right. Keep it coming in the chat. I'll answer any questions I have. Thank you guys so much for taking time to do the poll. I put a poll up. Where is this? I can't get this. Oh. I put a poll up and it asks where you saw our ad, Facebook, TikTok, or other. If you have other, I wish I had said what other did you find us on? Let us know. But we're trying to figure out if the TikTok ads are working. And it looks like they kind of are, because I love TikTok. I'm teaching a lot on TikTok now. So if you see us there, great. All right. Let me just check and see. I have the physical book for the 5001. I've been using it already. Awesome. All right. Yana's got the offer code in there. How long is the promo code good for? They don't really expire. So you can use it for whenever you want. All right. Here we go. So I'm going to write in blue ink for those of you who are red, green, colorblind. I always try to make sure like I am making sure people can see my stuff. A lot of times I was using green marker and red marker to like show right and wrong. And it turns out people are like, hey, I can't see that. So try to accommodate the best we can. All right. I already talked about this. We have the 5002, reading and language arts, 5003, that's the math, 5004, that's the social studies, and 5005, that's the science. Notice that the biggest part of the test is the reading and language arts. Why is that? Well, everybody's a reading teacher. They want you to understand the reading as much as possible. And you can see there are 80 total questions there. The next biggest is going to be the social studies here. They go down to 65. The next biggest is the math, and you only have 50 minutes for 65 questions. The next two are social studies and science. They're basically the same, but you have more time for the social studies than you do the science. I don't know why. It's, that's just the way it goes. Don't worry so much about the time. I know some of you freak out about that. One thing you want to make sure you do is answer all the questions. And if something is taking you too long, guess and go. Because you don't want to spend, like, let's say you're in the math, right? And let's say you're on the slope intercept question, and you're never going to get that question right. You just didn't study it enough. Grab an answer choice that looks good to you and move on, because there could be 3 or 4 questions after that question that you would have gotten correct had you been able to go forward. So don't focus on a question for too long. Narrow it down to 50-50 and then move on. Also, you only need a high D to pass this test. I find that helps people. You do not need a 90, a 92, a 93. You need like a 62. I always say, if you're taking the practice test in my book, if you're at a 75% correct, you're ready. That's the safe zone. Okay. Somebody's saying the time frame is my biggest downfall. You got to get used to moving through the text, not going back. Don't flag everything. Those of you with test anxiety, you like to flag everything. And then if everything's flagged, nothing's flagged, right? So just answer and move on. Okay. Once you really start to understand these concepts, the time will be better. Let's talk about 5002 here. This is the reading and language arts. The biggest part of this, I know that this says 53% here, but that's broken up by 3 separate things. The biggest section is really the foundations of reading, okay? Now, someone's saying, I'm struggling with how to study. Here's what I would do. I would break this thing up one subtest at a time. I would focus on one subtest at a time. If you're taking it for the first time, I recommend you take the whole thing at once. But I recommend, as you study, breaking it up one subtest at a time. So let's say we're studying now for the 5002. What I would do is, let me go in my thing here. What I would do is, let me show you the study guide really quickly. Here's what I would do. And all right, you see this section here? This whole reading and language arts section. What I would do is I would take one of these practice tests, the first practice test here. And I would do it blind. If this is the first time you've ever done it, I would take it blind, and I would not worry too much. I would not agonize over every little thing. And then I would grade it, but I would not look at the answer explanations, because I want to reuse this practice test later. That's practice test 2. Sorry, I would do practice test 1 here. Don't look at the answer explanations, just grade it, get a score, get a baseline. Okay. Then what I would do is I would start now reading the study guide. So I would go in here, the first section, and I would probably do 1 section a day, because there's a lot here to digest. So I would read this whole section here. This one might take you 2 days. This has a lot. This has like well over how many pages? This would probably take 2 days. Okay. I'd probably take 2 days for a section that's almost 40. If it's like 15, 20 pages, I would do that 1 day. But if it's more than that, I would break it up with 2 days. I would read this whole section, and then after each section, I have 10 practice problems. what I would do is do the 10 practice problems, read the answer explanations very, very, very well, understand why I got it right, why I got it wrong. And then anything I got wrong on these 10 practice problems, I would go back in and find those areas in the book and really dig down deep and make sure I understood them. Okay. Then I would move to the next section. Let's go to the next section. Sorry. Section B here, literature. Let's see, how many pages is this? This one isn't too bad. Okay. So this one is about 15 pages. I would do this in one day and then do the practice test questions. Okay. Little bits each day, 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. And then you're building up your stamina, you're building up your understanding. And that's how I would do it. Once I've done that for everything, then I would go back in. Let me go back to my table of contents and retake practice test 1 here and use it as a post test. This time, I would read the answer explanations and figure out which ones I got right and which ones I got wrong. And you can see I put the category. See my answer explanations here? I put the category in where they come from. So let's say you missed like a ton from section 1, specifically like phonemic awareness or something. I would go back in and study that, right? And then I would take practice test 2 as an ultimate post test to see where I am. And I would do that for every section of the book. That's how I would study. So pre-test, do a full practice test blind, grade it for a score, baseline. Don't worry, there's only one place to go but up. Then go in each section, and the whole book is sectioned out like that. There's a section and then 10 practice problems. I would do a section a night, or if they're long, take 2 nights for a section. Do the practice problems for that section, go back, fix up anything you have, move to the next section, do that. When you finish everything, redo the first practice test, read the actual answer explanations, see where you're still low, go back and study, and then take the second practice test as a post test to really see where you are. That's how I would study for this exam. All right, let's go back here. All right, so let's have a look at the reading, the foundational skills in reading. The foundational skills include, and this is a continuum, starts with the lowest skills, not really the lowest, the foundational, the beginning skills, phonological and phonemic awareness. This is sounds only in words. I'm going to show you why that's important, okay? Then we move to phonics, where we actually have to see the word and decode the word. So for example, in the word make, I know this A is long because it's followed by a consonant and a silent E. That's a code. I have to decode the word, but I have to see the word to do it. Phonological and phonemic awareness, I do not have to see the word, okay? Then we move into fluency, where we're not just reading one word at a time. We're reading strings of words and sentences and paragraphs and passages and finally stories. And we have to get our automaticity down and our fluency down so that we free up cognitive energy to comprehend. Comprehension is the essence of reading, and it is the critical thinking. It's firing off all these crazy things going on in our brains. We take it for granted as adults. We have to show students how to use their brains, and that is metacognition, thinking about thinking. Okay. Now, you want to be on the lookout for good words on this test. And in my book, I have good words lists for you that anybody who has any of my books, there's a good words list in the references pages and things like that. So you want to make sure that you check out the good words list and you see, I also have a video on good words, bad words that'll be posted here soon. That'll help you with that. Okay. So let's go over a practice test question so I can show you what I'm talking about here. Okay. Someone saying, I have the Praxis 2 elementary education, multiple subjects 5001, but do not have the pretest there. Do I have the right book? You probably bought the older edition, and that's fine. You can do the same thing. You just won't be able to use those practice tests. This is the updated edition. I know a lot of people are still buying the first edition because they like it. It's fine. This new edition has those practice tests in after each section. I updated the book about a year ago, I think. All right, so here's what I mean by working backwards. I say start with the answer choices first. A lot of people start here and they read all the way down and it just messes them up. Work backwards, think like a test maker. I can see here I have phonemic awareness, decoding, phonics, structural analysis. Now, if I've read my book and I understand these subjects, I know decoding and phonics are the same thing. And if I have two of the same, they can't be the answer, right? Because I can only choose one correct answer. Now, if you have the boxes by these and it says select all, right? Then you can choose more than one, but that's not what's going on here. What's going on here is I can only choose one, and phonics and decoding are the same thing. So I would immediately pick up on that. So I have phonemic awareness and structural analysis. Let's read the bullets. Teach students to break down words by individual sounds. Teach students to focus on sounds as they rhyme words. Sounds, sounds. Are they reading at all? Are they looking at the structure of a word? No. They're not decoding. They're not using phonics. They are using phonemic awareness because phonemic awareness has to do with sounds only. And I hammer this in my videos, the free videos, the paid videos, the study guides, everything. Sounds only, phonemic awareness and phonological awareness. Now, phonemic awareness is individual sounds. Phonological awareness are bigger chunks of sounds in the words, but they both have to do with sounds only. Notice that when I work backwards, I'm better positioned to identify that correct answer. And that's especially true when it comes to those big scenario questions where you have like long answer choices. All right. Those happen a lot on the reading exam and they happen a lot on the PLT. I saw somebody asking about the PLT. I just did a webinar for that. It's on our page and we'll link it up or whatever. But big scenario questions, working backwards really helps. All right. Then we get into, once we get through the foundational skills, then we get into reading. And here's the thing you need to know about literature and informational text. A balanced literacy approach is key. So anything that says using informational and literary text in the answers is good. Balanced literacy approach is good. Comparing multiple texts is good. That's high level. This is part of the comprehension stage. We're looking at text structure. Is it an opinion structure? Is it an expository? Is it a persuasive? Is it a descriptive? Text features, headings, graphs, charts, and an informational text. Maybe there's a picture, things like that. We're also going to encourage students to find themselves in literature. This is very important. This is why we have books that include all students, all different kinds of cultures, all different kinds of situations, because we have students that come from different types of families, different types of backgrounds, different cultures. And it's important that they can see themselves in literature because it will help them read more and help them, identify with characters and things like that. And then here's a good word, evidence-based discussion. That's where we require students to point in the text where they got their answer or what is helping them with their claims. So let's say you're doing like a discussion on a fable that you did or a piece of text that you read. And the student makes a claim and says, I think the character was mad because whatever. And you might say, that's a great observation. Where in the text led you to that? What words or what sentence led you to that answer? That's really important because it leads to citing evidence later when they get older and they have to do like research projects. So in elementary, we want to start them off with those good habits, citing evidence for your claims. We don't have a lot of that these days. We got to make sure we use evidence, data, and also things from the text to help us. All right, so let's have a look at this question. Now, this is where working backwards is really going to work. Notice I have a big scenario here, and then I have fairly long answer choices. All right, so let's have a look. A, allow students to partner up and read the text with a buddy. Okay. Well, if you're a new teacher, you might say, oh yeah, buddy reading, partner reading. I love it. Okay. I'll leave it. B, reward the students with extra time in the computer lab for finishing their reading. This is typically never the correct answer on this exam. Extrinsic rewards for reading are not the correct answer. Now, do they work in real life? Yes. I was a reading teacher. If I dangled treats or homework passes or something in front of students, they would do the work. but they are not sustainable. Eventually, the extrinsic reward wears off and the students stop reading. You want them to love reading. You want them to want to read. And it's really hard right now. And I understand you're competing with TikTok and the phones and just short attention spans and things like that. But when you allow students to read complex text that is interesting, that has to do with life lessons and things like that, you will help them to love reading. So we want to focus on intrinsic on this exam. Anything extrinsic is typically the wrong answer. I say typically because there's always something, but if you see something like this, cross it off. C, require the students finish the reading for homework. Again, homework is a bad word on this test. Is it a bad word in life? No. It is not a bad word in real life. Of course, we send home homework. Of course, we send home reading. Of course, we send home math for practice. But homework should have a purpose. And in this situation, usually homework is tagged to students who are struggling. And if they're struggling, homework isn't necessarily going to help them. We need to intervene as teachers, okay? And D, allow students to self-select books from a standards-aligned group of informational text. This has all the good words. First of all, self-select books. You're giving students choice and autonomy in their reading. This is huge. This is how you motivate them. This is how you help them to love books. Let them read what they want. I was a high school reading teacher. We read about drug cartels, war. I mean, they were high school kids. They wanted to read about edgy, crazy stuff. They didn't want to read about basketball, or skateboarding. They wanted to read about the war that was going on in Libya at the time. They wanted to read about these things that were really scary and interesting. Now, obviously, if you're teaching second grade, you're not going to have them reading about the war in Libya, but there's still some cool stuff that you can have them have a choice. The other thing about this is standards aligned. That's a very good word on this test. Remember, this test is a state standardized exam. Your state sets the standards for your students, and the state wants to know that you are teaching to the standards. You are not allowed to go rogue as a teacher. You have to teach to the standards. Now, how you do that is up to you, but making sure the books are aligned to the standards is very important, okay? Now, you may say, well, A is good, partner up. Let's read the question. A teacher notices a few students who are not motivated to read the current section of a piece of informational text. What can the teacher do to motivate students? And you might say, well, partner reading would motivate. They like group work, not as much as self-selecting books. This equals autonomy. This means choice. This means I get to read what I want, and that's a motivating factor, all right? Also, the term standards aligned. It says, what would, and a lot of the times it'll say, what is the most effective? You have to choose the most effective. And I get this thing a lot. Well, all the answer choices looked good to me. Nope. The best one here is D. Think like a test maker. Standards aligned, good word. Self-selected books, good word. Text to self, good words. All right. Writing, speaking, and listening is the next section of the reading and language arts portion of the exam. This has a lot of different things in it, but let's have a look at what this might look like on the exam. Let's read the answer choices. So I can see I have quotes here. So someone is speaking, either a student or a teacher, typically on the exam. You use the term American alligator a lot. Try combining sentences to give the paragraph varied language. All right, varied language is good. I can also see that I have sort of a passage written by a student. Again, you're going to start reading here. You're going to read this whole passage. And guess what? You don't even need to read this. I'm going to show you that you never had to read this passage to begin with. B, good job. Keep up the great work. Don't love this because it's got just positive and it's just general. Good job. Keep up the great work. How is the student going to keep up the great work when they have no idea what was great about it? You got to tell them. C, consider using a closing statement at the end. All right, C is specific, but it's all negative. Let's have a look at D. Your writing does a great job describing your knowledge about the American alligator. Positive. Consider deleting sentence 4 so it doesn't take away from your overall theme. I love D because you kicked a little and you praised a little. And it's specific. What can the student do to fix it? D is the correct answer. I can see here what would be the appropriate feedback. D's got it all. I don't even care what it says. I would read it just to make sure. I would definitely read this. The other apex predators are lions and tigers, but this whole thing is about alligators. So D, the suggestion there is good. Now, varied language is a good word on this part of the test because we want to teach students how to use different types of words. But there is no positive here. It's just, hey, you use this term a lot, try combining sentences. A is okay. It's the distractor, but D is a better answer. And when I say distractor, it's the almost correct answer. Go with the definite correct answer. All right. All right, let's talk about the math. Now, the math is tough. You do get a calculator, but it's on screen. So when you're practicing, I recommend that you pull up your laptop or something and you use, you know how you can get that calculator on your screen? I recommend you get used to using that 4-function calculator on the screen with your mouse because that tends to slow people down if they're not used to that. Okay. So I'm going to use my handheld here because I don't want to sit here and fumble over live on live TV here, but you would want to use that little, I know the PCs have them and Macs have them. You can click it and it pops up on the right-hand side of your screen. I would use that while studying. And if you have the physical book and you're doing math, just open your laptop and practice using the mouse on that. It's all good. Okay. All right. So let's go to what we're talking about here. Now, remember, there are 3 sections to the math: numbers and operations, algebraic thinking, and geometry, measurement, and data. So let's talk about numbers and operations. You will see numbers and operations in many questions on this exam. So you'll have a word problem and it will assess many different math skills. Okay. And I'm going to show you an example of that in a second. But this is going to be place value, simple things like they're going to list a number and they're going to ask what's in the tens place, what's in the 10,000th place, things like that. Order of operations or PEMDAS. Again, you might be like, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about PEMDAS in 20 years. It's okay. Exponents, fractions. Some of you may be like, I was never good at fractions. Here's the deal. Try not to have a deficit thinking mind. When you say things like, I'm not a math person, that's actually not true. Everybody's a math person. You just were more successful in another content category. Maybe you were more successful in language arts as a kid. And so you believed somewhere along the line that you were a reading person and a writing person and not a math person. Anyone can be a math person and anyone can be a reading person. It's just about working those skills. When you're successful with things, you like to do them. And when you're not successful with things, you don't like to do them. And that's why we do that. Oh, I'm right-brained or I'm left-brained. That's all not true. We use both sides of our brains. All right. Decimals, percents, and proportions. Proportions are going to save you on this test. I'm going to show you right now what that looks like. Okay. Ryan works at a sandwich shop and can make, let's start with the answer choices. I can see here I don't have any decimals, fractions, or weird numbers. Working backwards is going to help you because it'll help you save time. I know that I need a real whole number without any issues with it. It's got to be like a good number. No point something. If I start to do my math and I'm getting decimals, I know I'm on the wrong track. That's why starting with the answer choices is so important. Okay. So let's have a look here. Ryan works at a sandwich shop. He can make 35 sandwiches in 50 minutes. At this rate, keyword, how many sandwiches can he make in a 4-hour shift? This is a perfect proportion problem. A rate. What is a rate? A rate looks something like this, right? Or like this, 3 to 4, 3 out of 4. That's a rate, okay? When you see the term rate, you can use a proportion. And what we're going to do is we're going to set 2 fractions equal to one another. Another way to figure this out is like if a word problem gives you 3 out of the 4 things and you're looking for the 4th thing, do a proportion. Notice here, I have 35 sandwiches in 50 minutes. I'm looking for how many sandwiches in a 4-hour shift. I have sandwiches, time, not sure how many sandwiches, but I have the time. So I need that 3 out of 4 things, right? So the other thing I want you to think about is matchy. Whatever goes on the top has to be the same thing on the top on both sides. In this case, I'm going to do sandwiches over time equals sandwiches over time. You could do time over sandwiches equals time over sandwiches, but you cannot do sandwiches over time equals time over sandwiches. No. In this case, I'm going to do sandwiches, 35, over time, 50 minutes, equals, I'm not sure how many sandwiches, now notice, this is minutes. Careful. This is hours. Don't put 4 on the bottom there. How many minutes are in 4 hours? This is also a conversion question because you have to convert hours to minutes. Well, all you do is you take 4 hours and you multiply that by 60 minutes and you get 240. Okay, so there's a couple ways now that you can do this. I like to cross multiply and solve because sometimes these don't go in evenly, but you can say, how many times does 50 go into 240? So you do 240 divided by 50 and you get 4.8. So you do the same thing to the top. You multiply this by 4.8 and you would get 168. But what I like to do just to keep it safe, and it's actually quicker for me because I've been doing proportions forever, but I get hate online. They're like, you don't have to do that. Well, then start your own YouTube channel and teach people how to do math. This is the way I like to do it, okay? Because it shows you what a proportion really is. Cross, multiply, and solve. When I multiply 35 by 240, you're going to get a big number. I get 8,400 equals, and then I do 50 times X. Okay. Then you solve for X. How do I solve for X? I divide by 50 because I do the opposite operation, right? This is 50 times X. I need to do 50 divided by X to cross it off. Whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. So divide 8,400 by 50, and I get the same answer, 168. X equals 168. 2 ways to do it. Those are proportions. They will save you. You might see it, a tree. 2 trees are in the park. One is this tall and it casts a shadow of this length. The other one casts a shadow of this length. How tall is the second tree? Notice you have height over shadow equals height over shadow. Or similar triangles. You might have something like this. Let me just show you. Because proportions, this is why you can't try to memorize test questions, guys. This right here assesses numbers and operations, right? So they might do it with a word problem. They might do it with similar triangles here. They might do it like this. And in the sorry for my bad drawings, they might say these triangles are similar. And we've got 12 here, and we have like 4 here, and we have X here, and we have like, I don't know, 28 here or something like that, right? Now, you could do an easy proportion here, but this might not be as easy. That might not be 28, might not be a multiple of 4. It could be something like, I don't know. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. It's like 120, or that's too big. Let's go here. Could be something like, 3. Can't do that by just looking at it. So you would do height over bottom, 12 over 4 equals X over 3. 4X equals 36, divide by 4, divide by 4. Am I doing this right? Yeah. X equals 9. Oop, you can't see it. X equals 9. So it may be, just assessed in different ways. Okay. Veronica, I have Dr. Jasper's latest book, currently studying science. Just to be clear and understanding what she was saying, take the practice test first, then study wrong questions and study 30 to 20 minutes a day until the actual test day. Okay, Veronica, what I would do is take practice test 1, cold, get a score, and then go in and read all of the information in the first section, take the 10 practice test questions, go back and work on that section and move through the book that way. Then take practice test 1 again once you've done all of that, and then go back and fix up anything you're still not understanding, and then take practice test 2. I have a video on how to use the 5001 book. We will link it up in the email that goes out after this so you can stop it and look at it, okay? I go through how to use the new study guide here. And Yana will do that for you. She's really good about linking up the right stuff. So I'm going to put that in the email that goes out. If you're watching this in the future, you've already received it. Aside from the calculator that is on the computer, do they offer scrap paper the day of the test? Yes, you have scrap paper. I do a lot of things by hand on a math test. I should use the calculator more, but I do a lot of I'm like old school. Sometimes I'll do long division, and I know it's easier with the calculator, but sometimes I just prefer to do that to see it. Um, and so, yes, you'll get scratch paper. If you take the test at home, I believe you get like a whiteboard or like a plastic thing to work on. I've never taken the test at home, so I don't know, but that's what people tell me. Okay, but yes, you get scrap paper at an ETS testing site, and you can use it for lots of different things. If you want to just sort of, I don't know, if you want to kind of write something down as you're thinking. Sometimes people need to write when they think. Okay. Someone's asking about test anxiety. Listen, test anxiety is something that a lot of people are plagued with. Here's the thing. You've got to really understand that you can take this test multiple times, and it is not, you will eventually pass. I know it's expensive. I know it's not the best situation, but this doesn't define you. This is an elementary education certification exam. You will pass, and you just have to keep going. It's one of those things you got to work for. What would you tell your students? Hey, we're going to work on this. We're going to dig down into the skills that you need to work on, and we're going to keep trying. Okay. You're going to just keep working on the skills and keep going. And remember, you don't need an A, you need a D. A D. That should help you with your test anxiety. A low C, high D. So don't think you have to be perfect, because you don't. All right, let's go to algebra. Now, algebra scares a lot of people, but if you practice, you'll get better. We're going to do expressions versus equations, linear relationships, formulas for unknown quantities. Proportions are a part of algebra, because look, when I did this, see how I was solving for X here? This is algebra as well. All right, so, and then verbal statements. Let's have a look at this, okay? This is one that's just sort of a straight up algebra problem. Evaluate the equation for b equals -4, and then they have the equation here. So what this basically means is wherever you see a b, you're going to put a -4. And we're going to use parentheses, because this is an algebra question, but it's also an order of operations question. This is a numbers and operations questions. Remember, I told you, sometimes they'll test 2, 3 things at a time. Okay, so let's put a -4 everywhere we see a B here. Okay, be careful. You have to keep all the negatives straight. So we're going to do negative times -4, because the B is here, right? To the power of 2 minus, careful, 3 times -4. Okay, now we're going to make sure we're following our orders of operations, PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, whichever comes first, then addition and subtraction, whichever comes first. If division comes first, you can do that before the multiplication, but you cannot do the addition before the multiplication and division. These are grouped. All right. All right, so let's see parentheses. Now, you might say, oh, I'm going to move this through here. You could right now, the way this works, but parentheses are actually the -3 to the times the -4. That's actually multiplication. That's distribution. You might say, oh, let me distribute this right here. Yeah, let's do that. No, that's going to give you the wrong answer. And good math test makers anticipate that you're going to do that. It's a trap. Follow the orders of operations. When we say PEMDAS, and we talk about parentheses, we're talking about operations inside parentheses. So if you had that, you would do that first. Okay? But that's not what we have here. So we don't have any parentheses. We're going to move to exponents. We're going to do this first. Let me show you what happens. -4 to the power of 2 is -4 times -4. Negative times a negative is a positive. 4 times 4 is 16. Bring it down. Negative. What would happen if I distributed this first? This becomes a +4, and this whole thing becomes a +16. And that is not going to give me the right answer. Okay? So be careful. When you see negatives, slow down. Okay? Now, -3 times -4 is going to be a positive 12. So now I have -16 plus 12, -4. Had I distributed this negative first, which is actually multiplication, I would have had 16 plus 12, which is 28. Notice they anticipate that. That's not correct. Be careful. Be very careful. Do they tell you what you got wrong or right, or just how many? Just how many, Juliana? You're not going to get a detailed score report. Mm-mm. That would require them to spend money. That does not adhere to their bottom line to give you what you got right or wrong. But here's what I suggest. If you can remember some questions that you got right or wrong, like that you got wrong, and you're like, God, that question was so hard, Google it, put it into Chat GPT, and just like try to see like if there are other skills. There probably will be a video out there on it. I'm sure I have a video on it, something like that. Google what, it might have been something like, you might have been like, oh, I forgot this map question. They asked me a map question about, I don't know, physical maps or something. You were in geography. Throw it into Google, throw it into Chat GPT and just try to figure out like the concepts. Okay. It says the section quantity of right and wrong. Yes, you get shown like, hey, in order in numbers in operation, you missed this many. So you'll know where you're low, but you're not going to get specific questions. Okay. No problem, Michaela. I knew what you meant. Okay, let's move on. Last one is going to be geometry, measurement, and data. This is crazy. It's a big one. We've got 1, 2, 3-dimensional figures. We've got perimeter, area, volume, circumference, units of measure. I added central tendency. It's not in the specs. Those are the test specifications where they tell you what's on the exam. But I don't like doing math tests that don't have this. So they may have it categorized in something else, but mean, median, and mode. Graphs, charts, tables, probability, and proportions. Let's have a look here. Okay, so this is a geometry problem. I can see I have the word perimeter and square, and I've got everything is in inches, and they're whole numbers. There's no decimals here, okay? No decimals. So I need to make sure like everything is going into everything. So a square is a hint. Square has all equal sides. And we're talking about perimeter. Perimeter is when you add up all the sides. Area is when you multiply base times height. Okay. So it says, what is the perimeter of a square with an area of 49 square inches? So it gave us the area. We need to figure out the perimeter. Okay. So a square has all of the same four sides. This sort of looks like a rectangle. Sorry. Pretend this is a square. All right. And base times height in this situation equals 49. What times what equals 49? Or what is the square root of 49? 7, right? 7. Okay. Now be careful. You're going to go, oh, 7, because you're under stress and you're like, boom, 7. Notice they're anticipating your answers. That's step 1. That's not the final step. Okay. Not the final step. They want the perimeter. How do we find the perimeter? We can multiply 7 times 4, or we can add up 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7, and we get 28 inches. Be careful. I do it all the time. I'm moving quick. I go, oh, boom, 7. Yeah, it's 7. It's not asking for the square root of 49. It's asking for the perimeter of a square with an area of 49. Okay. Someone's asking me to go back to the algebraic thinking slide. This one here. DD. This should be verbal statements equals algebra. This is where they make you like write the algebra expression or equation for what's said in a word problem. All right. If you have any questions on that, throw it in the chat. All right. Next one for geometry, probability, and all of that. Have you determined how closely the Praxis compares to the Texas exam for the elementary ed? Yes, it compares very closely, Ella. Most of these elementary exams are the same, but I believe the Texas also has PE fine arts. It's got like a 5th section, I believe, in the Texas one. Okay. All right, but this will still help you. Okay, let's have a look here. I got all whole numbers, 2, 13, 14, 25. Okay, let's read. I want to read the question. How many more combinations of meals will her customers be able to get? All right, here's a trick on these. I know people will want to work these out by hand. Let me show you what to do. So we've got Ellie's food truck currently serves 4 main dishes and 3 side dishes. And each meal you buy, you get 1 main and 1 side. Okay. Next week, she is adding 1 main dish to the list and 2 sides to the menu. How many more combinations of meals will her customers be able to get? All right, this is easy, guys. In order to find out how many combos they get now before she adds the stuff, okay, all we do is we do 4 times 3 because they only get 1 main and 1 side. So 4 times 3, what does that equal? 12. But next week, she's adding a main. So the 4 becomes a 5. And she's adding a side. So the 3 becomes a 4. Right? Let me see here. 5. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just looking. She adds 2 main sides. I knew something was up. Sorry. She doesn't just add 1. I'm like, why does that look like that? That's not the right answer. She adds 2 sides. So the 3 becomes a 5, right? Because we added 2 and we added 1. So 5 times 5 is 25. 25 minus 12. We're not done yet. Don't do this. They're going to anticipate it. Okay? So don't do that. You're not done yet. How many more will they get after she adds? Well, we do 25 minus 12 and we get 13. B. Okay? Easy. I know a lot of people be like, okay, a main, a side, a main, a side. And they try to do this thing where they set up, just multiply. 4 times 3 are the different combinations you get. When she adds a main and 2 sides, that becomes 5 times 5. Then find the difference. All right, let's move on to social studies. So social studies is divided fairly equally, but the bulk of it comes from U.S. history, government, and citizenship. So this is going to be everything from who was here before the early European explorers, so Native Americans and their history. Then, of course, U.S. history, the colonization of the United States, the Louisiana Purchase, the Civil War, the triangular slave trade or the transatlantic slave trade, the Industrial Revolution. I mean, everything, right? The War of 1812. There's a lot, okay? And then government, 3 branches of government, the legislative branch, the executive branch, the judicial branch, the electoral college, all of that. And then citizenship, like what are our rights and our responsibilities as citizens? Kendra's asking, why did you find the difference? I found the difference because it says how many more combinations of meals will her customers be able to get with the new additions? So here's the old, here's the new, and I subtracted that. Okay. All right. Then you got geography, anthropology, and sociology. This is going to be everything from longitude, latitude, rivers, anthropology, human existence, sociology, how we farm, our societies, things like that. And then econ and world history. This is going to be everything from supply and demand to, opportunity cost. And then world history is going to be, it's a lot. It's ancient civilizations all the way up to like now. So let's have a look at some questions there. All right. I told you European history, European exploration, American Revolution, major events. Westward expansion is a big one. Wayward expansion, divine or manifest destiny. Key documents. This should say Federalist Papers. Sorry, it should not say Feudalist Papers. Federalist. I will fix that. I keep saying I'm going to fix that and I keep forgetting. Branches of government, citizens' responsibilities. Let's have a look. So again, this is one, like those of you who are having trouble with the 5004, I would really read this book. I include everything, almost too much here. Okay. I went through the specs and took every single specific thing and I wrote like 3 pages on every single thing and then did practice test questions for those. So I highly recommend you read it. Read. Okay. So let's have a look at just the answer choices: implementation of the Indian removal process, reconstitution of the southern states, exploration of the new territory, initiation of the first U.S. Census. Can't do much there. Let's read the question. Following the Louisiana Purchase, Thomas Jefferson ordered which of the following tasks to be completed? All right. Well, you got to know that the exploration of new territory is Lewis and Clark, and that's who he sent out. Go explore, and it was a lot of territory to explore. So this is one that you have to understand what's going on, because you might go, oh, remove the Native Americans from their land. They did that for sure, but the first thing that we wanted to have done was to go and explore the new territory. And then they saw that there were Native Americans in these territories, and they're like, oh, we got to get rid of them because we want to go over there and, take over the land and stuff like that. I highly recommend there's a Netflix show called Primeval. Let me know in the chat if you've watched it. I binged it in one Saturday afternoon because I really like history because of the books I've written for you guys. I have a 5581, which is high school history. I had to learn so much to write that book, but Primeval is so good. And it's all about manifest destiny, everybody trying to go west and conquer, and the Native Americans are fighting with the US government, but the US government is also fighting with the Mormons because they want their land. It's so interesting. So I would definitely check that out. I mean, it is fiction, but if you like that kind of stuff, it's definitely really cool. Accessibility. Are your books in digital format that could be read to me? Yes, they are a PDF. So if you have PDF reader, it will read the book to you. And also the online course, I have videos that you can listen to, but the PDF can be put into PDF reader. So for accessibility reasons. All right, let's have a look at the next one: geography, anthropology, and sociology. So world geography concepts, physical and human systems, cultures, people, migration, and settlements. It might be something easy like this. Using this map, which country is at 60 degrees north and 20 degrees east? Now you have to know north, south, east, and west. I'm teaching my daughter this and I did it wrong. I'm teaching my daughter this because we are, she's learning to drive, and I'm like, go west. And she's like, west? We live in Florida. So I'm like, visualize the Gulf of Mexico and go. If you're going down, you're going south. And if you're going up, you're going up and it's on your left-hand side, you're going north. I'm trying to help her with that because it's hard for people. So remember that never eat soggy waffles. Yes. Never eat soggy waffles going clockwise around. So here's what you want to do. You're going to start at 60 degrees north and 120 west, and you're basically going to go boop the best you can, and you can see we end up in Russia. Okay. Now, if you went 60 degrees here and 120 up here, it wouldn't work. They made it easy on you here. But make sure you know your north, south, east, and west. You might need to know relative location versus absolute location. Real quick, absolute location is like what we're saying here. Sorry. Let's say there's a town at 60 degrees north, 120 degrees east. They will include decimals there because it's very, very precise, right? That's absolute location. But if I say the United States is north of Mexico, that's relative location because you're using another landmark to tell where something is. Or if I say, hey, go to the corner store and take a right and the house will be on your left, that's relative location. If I send you a pin with exact longitude and latitude coordinates, that's absolute location. Okay. All right. And the last part for world history and econ, we have ancient civilization, developments of the 20th century. They do not have the 21st century yet, although I did include it partially in my book, because just in case they could add to the test bank, although they normally don't do that. But we're getting into the first quarter of the 21st century, so they will most likely add it. Cross-cultural comparisons, basic econ, supply, demand, scarcity, choice, populations, resources, and impact. Let's have a look Again, you may not know this because who's thinking about this? Which of the following civilization was the first to use irrigation? Okay, important. Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, they were the first to use it. Egypt perfected it from the Nile River, but Mesopotamia was the first to use it. I had to study a lot of the ancient civilizations for the 5581 book I wrote, and it's so fascinating, like how they did things. It's crazy. So Mesopotamia is the birth of civilization. It's the cradle of civilization. And they used irrigation to water crops, which was like a huge thing, which took us to the next level of how we evolved. All right. But Egypt did it too, but Egypt was later. They perfected it. They made it even better. All right, let's talk about the science. And go ahead and throw your questions in the chat if you have them. If you're on social asking me questions, I answer them when I'm done because I can't see them right now if you're on there. All right, so there are 3 equal sections, 33, 33, 33. Earth space, this is going to be everything from, the Earth's crust, stars, moons, planets, asteroids, comets, also the atmosphere, stratosphere, that type of thing, the hydrosphere, cryosphere, all of that, processes like earthquakes, storms, anything Earth space related. Then life science is all things that have to do with biology. My favorite. This is what I taught at high school. So it's going to be anything from cells, even smaller, DNA, to cells, to cell clusters of cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, and organisms. Then zoom out to ecosystems and zoom out even more to the biosphere. All right. And then physical science is going to be all things physics and chemistry. So atoms, ions, pH scale, energy, push-pull factors, kinetic energy, things like that. Let's have a look. Earth space, moon, stars, sun, Earth systems, Earth spheres, Earth's crust. And here's the thing. If you get a scenario question that has inquiry in the answer choices, it's most likely the correct answer because we want to foster a sense of inquiry in our students. We want them to ask questions, to use the scientific method. And you do that through increasing inquiry, making them, interested. What's going on? Why is this happening? Oh, I want to do an experiment to see why this is happening. Okay. All right. Here's one for Earth space. The picture is an example of, all right, this is the water cycle, hydrosphere, hydro, water. Geosphere is all of the rock and stuff going on the earth. Cryosphere is all the frozen water, all the glaciers and ice. And biosphere is all things living, any place where there's something living. Okay. So you might say, wow, that's easy. Yeah, it's okay. It's easy. A lot of people think it's too easy and they won't choose hydrosphere. They'll choose biosphere because they say, oh, that's too on the nose. If it's too on the nose, it's the answer. They know you're not a PhD in Earth space science. They're going to give you some gimmies. Take them. Now, life science, cell theory. 3 parts of cell theory. All things come from cells. The cell is the basic unit of life, and all cells divide to make more cells. Parts of a cell, human system, interdependence, life cycles, and again, inquiry. Let's have a look at a question here. So this is a life science. This is actually part of ecosystems. This isn't a cell question here, and I kept this this visual here for you, but on the test, you might not have it. Let's pretend that's not there, and let's just go to this. Which of the following is a producer? Now, if you haven't looked this over, you're like, well, I don't know which one's a producer. Which one produces? Grasses produce. The rest of them are consumers. You could also say, all right, this is an animal, this is an animal, this is an animal, and this is a plant. Think like a test maker. Aziza, what is the cryosphere? All of the frozen water on Earth, glaciers, all of the frozen water, frozen. So you can see here, if I were thinking like a test maker and I didn't have this little energy pyramid next to me, A stands out. I can only have one correct answer. There's one that stands out as a plant. The rest of them are animals. I would probably do that and move on. Use your think like a test maker strategies. All right, but let's have a look at this just so you know. As you move up the pyramid, energy is lost. Down here, we have grasses. Grasses produce carbohydrates. So grasses take electrons from the sun, and plants do, and water, and carbon dioxide, and they make carbohydrates. And then the bunny eats the grass. Then the snake eats the bunny. Then the bird eats the snake. Then the hawk eats the bird. Every time something eats something else, it loses energy. So look, all the energy is stored here. This is 100% energy here. The bunny eats it and gets some of the energy, gets some of the ATP, and it's like they're hopping, right? And they use up some of that energy. And then the snake eats the bunny and gets some of that energy, but it's lost. Some of it's lost. So as you move up the pyramid, some energy is lost. Okay. All right, let's talk about physical science. Physical and chemical changes, forces in motion, electricity, forms of energy, machines, and again, you've got this word inquiry. Let's have a look here. All right. Now, this is one of those where like it's just really hard. If you didn't study the way lightning works, how are you going to get this question right? So because we've got really long answer choices, I want to show you the setup of this one right here. Okay. When the ground becomes positively charged, the negatively charged electrons in the cloud move down. So we have ground positively charged. When the ground becomes negatively charged, particles in the cloud become intermingled. Particles in the ground become intermingled. Notice that there's a pattern in answer choices. They'll do this sometimes when they're looking for a combination of right things, correct things. So don't get too caught up. There's basically, you can see in the first part, ground positive, ground negative, ground or cloud intermingled, ground intermingled. Okay. You can find the right answer here without, or you can eliminate the wrong answers without having to look too much. Okay. Which of the following is an accurate depiction of how lightning works? Well, let me just show you how lightning works in a very simple way. Those of you who know a lot about science and lightning, don't come for me. Here we go. Here's a cloud. When lightning starts to happen, all of the negative electrons move down the cloud and the positive atoms move to the top. Okay. So we got positively charged atoms move to the top, negatively charged atoms move to the bottom. And then on the ground, the positively charged particles move to the top and the negative move to the bottom. So what's happening here? We have positives and negatives attract. When they do, there's a spark. And it's like ground to cloud connection, ground to cloud lightning, or cloud to ground lightning. All right. This is the only combination. Negative in the cloud, positive on the ground. So it looks like A is my right answer because right away the ground becomes negatively charged. No, the cloud, the negatively charged particles move down. So B, C, and D are out. If it's intermingled, then nothing's happening. Look, if this is like plus, minus, minus, plus, minus, minus, plus, and then the ground is like plus, minus, plus, minus, minus, plus. If it's intermingled, there isn't a definitive like delineation and that spark is not going to happen. Are there explanations like this in the online course? Yes, hours of explanations like this on the online course. Yes, yes, yes. Mm-hmm. And quizzes and all that. All right, let's have a look at number 9. So again, we're looking at potential energy. I can see this is a pendulum. Right away, I need to be thinking kinetic potential energy. When you pull the pendulum up and let it go, what happens? So at what point on the graph is potential energy the highest? Okay. A. When you pull, so let's look at my pen here. Look at your bottom screen. I'm down here. Let's say I have this pen and I'm about to let it go and drop. It's at its highest potential energy up here. Let's say I dropped it and it's like right here. Its potential energy isn't as high as it is when it's here. It has the highest potential of falling. Potential energy is highest when kinetic energy is lowest. Notice that. There's no kinetic energy here. It's sitting up here waiting to be dropped. But as I drop it, kinetic energy increases and potential energy decreases. So the potential energy is the highest on A. There's potential energy in E, but not as big as A. A has the most potential. C has the highest kinetic. Right before it makes that turn back up, highest potential, highest kinetic energy in C, and potential is lowest. So it's going potential, kinetic, potential, kinetic, potential, kinetic, kinetic. See what I'm saying here? So when kinetic is high, potential is low. When potential is high, kinetic is low. Same with like if it was on a hill. Let's say we got a hill here and we have A, B, C, and D. And they say, where is kinetic energy the highest? D. Right before it hits the bottom. Where is potential energy the lowest? D. Where is potential energy the highest? A. Where is kinetic energy the lowest? A. And that's all in the book. And I explain that a lot in the online course as well. All right. Let's stop sharing here. Let's take some questions. My internet went off before you were telling us the movie to watch on Netflix. It's a series. It's called American Primeval. And I see Maya got it. It's a little violent. I'm not into violence, but it was really good. But it was a little violent. Sort of cheesy at the end, but it was really good the whole way through. You just see how people like back then, they had to suffer to live. I'm so glad I have air conditioning and a corner store, I mean, it was a lot of work back then. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Let me show you where to get more videos. If you're looking for more videos, maybe you're looking for some more free stuff. And someone's saying, I would love, if possible, a different webinar for each subtest. We might do that, but it's a lot because I have so many other tests I have to do. But I do have a YouTube channel with lots of different things, and I'll record some more stuff. But I have some videos. Michaela, I think it is, or Mahala. There's no C in your name. Maybe you mistyped it, but I'm going to show you where to get more stuff. When will you do special ed? I just did special ed, Rochelle. If you go, let me show you. Better show you. Everybody, this is going to help you because you're going to have to take more than one test. Okay. So here we are on my website. Go to free webinars here. Scroll down. I already did this special ed. Click replay. I just did PLT. Click replay. When you do, you'll be taken to a thank you page. Oops. You'll be taken to a sign up page. Once you sign up, you'll be taken to a thank you page. You can get the free study guide and the replay link, and you can watch it whenever you want. You'll also get an email with everything. All right. The other thing I'm doing next week is teacher resume and interview process. Those of you who are trying to get new jobs in education, maybe you're switching and you want to learn what to say. I interviewed thousands of teachers in my career. I know exactly what the principal is going to ask you. I know what they want you to say. Go online, look at the reviews on my videos. They're like, oh my gosh, I got the job because I know what they're going to ask you. So I'm going to tell you in that webinar, and I have a course for that. Somebody was asking about the high school ELA. I've got them here. I've got a couple other things, how to lesson plan, all that. So there's a bunch here. Praxis Core. Next week, after this, I believe I'm doing another 5001. I can't remember. 5001 is a big one. All right. Now, if you want to look for some extra videos, those of you who are looking for like specifically 5004 or whatever, go to playlists. And let me find it. It's the 7-8. It's the 5006. First of all, I have social science here. I have ancient civilizations, European, Praxis, social studies, and the 7815. Those all work. So you can find some things there. Let me go down. Okay, this 78. Oh, let me see here. 7811. Where are you? I haven't added to it in a while, but the 7811, social science, middle school science. I'm trying to find. We'll link it up. It's my 7811 and 5. There it is, right here. It's at the top. This one here has a ton of. This is a different elementary ed exam, but they have the same. They have the same stuff. So I've done little earth, space, physical. I've done some separate videos here for the 7811, which is the same as the 5001. It's very similar. So we'll link this up so you can see those. Okay. Okay. I'm on TikTok, you guys. Please come see me over on TikTok. I am sharing lots of information there. And if you have students who are studying for SAT, I'm doing a whole new SAT course. I'm doing tons of SAT, ACT, GED, writing, how to write as a college student, all of that. I am giving lots of lessons there. Some of you said you found me on TikTok, and others said you found me on other sources. Let me know in the chat. If you said other, where was it? I should have put that in the poll. And then, so we got YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, of course. And then I'm on LinkedIn too, but it's so boring. I'm never over on LinkedIn. Do you have books for speech and pathology? I wish I did. I really want to do a book for speech pathology. There is a really good one that somebody has. It's been around forever. There's a lot of science on the speech and pathology, so I have to really study, and it's not my area totally. I mean, it is sort of, but not like people who are experts in it. So it would take me like a year to write that book, but it is a goal. It is a goal. But there is a really good one that everybody uses on Amazon. Thank you so much for this information. I passed my math last Saturday. Yes, from your Praxis 2 book. I should have purchased this in 2023. Okay, but you got it now. And I'm so glad you passed the math. The math is tough. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you. Oh, you found me on YouTube. Okay, good. Okay. Science of Reading. Do you have that book? Dee Dee, I have the Foundations of Reading. Just did a webinar on that last week. Go to my webinars page. The Foundations of Reading and the Science of Teaching Reading are like almost the same test. They all assess the same thing. Okay. All right, guys, listen, this is a big one. I want you to take your time. So someone's asking, how long do we study for? This is a big test. I told you 20 minutes a night. You got to get through each big subtest. So this one could take you about a month. You may be a history buff or a science buff, and you may pass those no problem. And now you've just got some others to work on. Without seeing your actual skills, I don't know. But I would rather you do it incremental practice over time than try to cram. Some people are good at cramming. Others need more time. What's the difference between Praxis Core and 5001? All right, Caitlin, Praxis Core is a basic skills test. That's more like an SAT where you actually have to do the reading and answer reading comprehension questions. You actually have to do the math. And it's a grammar test. The 5001 is a subject area exam where they're testing you on being a teacher. You probably have to take both. I'm doing Praxis Core in a couple of weeks. I passed the Praxis Core last summer, taking 5001 today. Chamika, awesome. Let us know how it goes. Good luck today. Go easy on yourself. And remember, it's all good. It's all good, you guys. You can take it again, and you need a high D. That doesn't mean bomb it. Do your best, but just remember, take it easy. It's all good. Talk to yourself like you would talk to your students, which would be very encouraging and telling them they're smart and they're worthy and that a test doesn't define them. You would say all these things to your students. So let's say those things to ourselves. Let's cut ourselves some slack, okay? Thank you so much. Your book helps me. Good, Shamika. I'm so glad you got it. All right, guys, listen. That's all for today. Michaela, good luck on your social studies. Wait about 20 minutes. You're going to get an email from me. It's going to have everything in it. If you're watching this in the future, you've already gotten that email. And I so appreciate you taking the time to spend your Saturday with me. Don't forget, we have free and paid resources. We'll link everything up, and you guys can use that offer code on anything you want on my store. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me, and have an awesome day. Bye.